Hey everyone, so this is the redo of the second half of class, which I forgot to record. So let's do exercise 8. So I'm going to do exercise 8 not by downloading this template, I'm just going to do it just bare bones HTML, but you hand in your template here. So you can follow along, and I'm hoping that by me using the bare bones HTML it'll be a little bit more clear, so you're not distracted by the CSS fancy graphical stuff. So let's just create a mock-up of the amounts. So you have, all your different amounts. So let's pretend we have that going on. So first of all, goal number 1, using the view framework. So remember how in class I clicked on the gear icon and then I searched for view and then I chose this? Well, because I chose this is actually the production version, which means it does not allow the View DevTools Chrome extension to work, which is why when I went to look for it yesterday, it was not there. So I don't want that. I just want the development version for now. So if I go to their web page, I should just grab the development version under here. So I could grab this and put it in the HTML section there, or I could just grab the URL and put that in the gear icon, same thing. So I'll just take away what I had before, I'll paste in that one. Okay, great. So we now have view, which means I can say new view, but before I say new view we need to have a hook into that. So I'll say div ID of app, and now we can say new view. So we need to say EL and identify the ID of where we want to hook into. So that means we now have access to everything inside there. Now let's make a data, and inside here will be our variables. So now let's just test to make sure if it works. If I just say message hello world, and if I put in like hello world over here, so say right there. Oh, sorry, no, message is what I wanted. Message. Does it work? Yes, it works. Right. So hello world is showing, so view is working. Great. Okay. So the next thing to do is to fetch the data from this URL. Now, I believe some of you had difficulty with this URL because Chrome by default, if you try going to it, it will give you an error page that looks like this. Yeah. So if you get this error screen, if you try going to this URL, which is the IP I gave you, and say enter, it might give you not the JSON, but it might give you this error page. If it does, just force Chrome to use it anyway. So click on advanced, which will reveal a link down below that says proceed anyway. So just click on proceed, and then you'll get the JSON, which is this one here. So once you've allowed Chrome to see the JSON, then we can work with it. So let's use a ex8 in an appropriate life cycle. So you could use created here, you could use mounted here. So basically this is something that will run each and every time view instantiates. So here is a good place to fetch your data. So I'm going to say async there and then await here. So we're going to fetch that API. We're going to parse it into JSON, and let's console log the data just to make sure we got it. Let's save it. Let's go into our change view and debug mode so that we get this browser, and if we go to our console we should see our console log, and indeed we got all of the JSON. So because we're only interested in this one here for the amounts, I'm going to maybe store just this array inside a variable called trivia blocks or something like that. So I'll say trivia blocks, start off with an empty array, and then once we get all the data, right? So let's imagine that we got this whole data. How do you get the array? You say data dot clues to get the array. So let's say data dot clues to get the array, and we're going to assign that to our trivia blocks. How do you assign anything in the data? You have to preface it with a keyword of this. Okay, so let's save that, let's refresh, and let's test it out using the View Dev Tools this time. So because we're using the development version, the View tab now shows. So here, we'll click on root, and indeed we got all the different clues, which is great. So now we're interested in just these dollar amounts of value. So each question has a different value, right? So let's grab those and put it here. So instead of hard coding all the different list tags, we can now say v4 something, and then we'll put in the appropriate thing in there in a second. So v4, how does that work? You have to basically say singular in and then your array name. So your array name is trivia blocks, so that's at the end, right? So trivia blocks, oops. Trivia blocks is your array, and then you want to say something in trivia blocks, and then what comes before that is some variable name that you give it. So I'll just say Q. So this represents a single object or a single element in the array that you have here. So imagine Q is, to start off with, Q will be just this, which means if I just want to access the 200 here, it'll be Q dot value to get 200. That'll be the first iteration. Next time it'll be 400, right? So if I just say here in this mustache templates Q, and again I have access to this because I defined it here, Q dot, and notice here, just by saying Q, it just gives me the stringified JSON of everything, which I don't want. I want Q dot value. There. So that's how to do that. So clue number 2 is done. Clue number 3 is displaying the category, essentially. So if we look at the JSON, where's the category? It's basically right here, back to business. So that was obtained, this whole thing was obtained in our fetch. So data was assigned to this whole thing, which means data.title should give us back to business. So what if we create a new variable here in our data called category, initialize it with an empty string for now, and then after we fetch the data, if we said data.title and assign it to our category, that should do it, right? So how to access this? You have to say this .category equals data.title, and then let's just put it up on top here, category, and see if that works. Great. Clue number 3 is done. If an amount is clicked, then its question is displayed in the talk bubble. So let's make a talk bubble. Below here, we'll just put a p tag. Okay. So in here, let's put. It'd be great to say, whatever the question is. So this has to be in our data. So let's put that in here. Question. Let's just initialize it with empty string for now. And then let's populate this as soon as we basically click one of these things. So that means we have to add an event listener. So inside the list tag, we can say @click equals, and then in quotations put the name of your function. So just create a name. So I'll say maybe display or something like that. So that means you have to now create a function called display. So in View, where do you place your functions? You place it in methods, usually. So inside methods, let's create a function called display. So I could say display : function. So that's the standard way to create a function using the object notation. But the ES6 shortcut is you just say that. Okay. So here, what do we want to do? We want to display the question that came with this question here. So what you could do, let's test this out. What if I just say alert high just to make sure it works? So now if I click on 200, you get high. Now you could also pass in, because this is a function, you can actually pass in something like Q itself. And because Q is the whole object of this, if I say Q dot question, that should give me this, right? So that's one way to do it. If I say Q dot question, that should give me that question. So now I get some kind of, question, quote. And then if I say alert quote for now, let's see what happens. If I say 200, there it is, right? If I say 800, there it is. So that's working, except we don't want to alert it. We want to put it in here. So how do you put it in there? Well, how do you access that? It's this dot question equals quote. And so by doing that, every time you click it, it changes this variable. And as soon as you change the state of the JavaScript, it changes the state of the DOM. Right? So if I click on 200, now it appears here 400, 600, 800, 1000. Right? So that's one way to do it. Maybe another way, just for being exploratory and for learning's sake, let's say I didn't want to do that method. Let's say I didn't want to put that in there. How else would I be able to do it? Well, remember I said in class you could put a data dash, right, to keep track of the index of your array. Something like that. Now, where would I get that index? You would get it from this v4. So here, you can wrap this in parentheses, and you could say comma index. So this will be populated with the index of the array, and then I can now put that index here. But if I just do it like this, the word index will actually be in my HTML. So you watch this. Inspect, index is there. I don't want that. I want the value. So you have to now use the colon, which is in Vue it's called vbind. And basically you're now connecting this index with this index. So this colon is called vbind, and that allows you to say anything in the data here, right? So you can put anything here inside here, or anything in the v4 here inside here. Okay. So now that we got that index, maybe what we could do is we can grab an alert e.target.dataset.idx, right? So that should give us the value. Let's try that. 200 should give us 0, 400 should give us 1, etc. Okay, so that means we now have a way to get our elements in our array. And so we can do something with that. We can say this dot question equals, and then we can refer to our trivia blocks, this dot trivia blocks, and then what's the index? It's what we just discovered through here. So that'll give us like this object. So we just want the question. So if I say dot question, that should be good enough. And let's see if that works. So 200, there it is, 1000. So that's just another way. Again, you have the freedom to infrastructure the way you want. Okay, let's go for the last clue, which is if an amount is clicked, the browser speaks the question. So I gave this slide the other day. These are the bare minimum 4 lines you need to make the browser speak. So you could say maybe in the display, actually, you know what, I'm going to say, I'm going to create a new function called speak. And then in here, I'm going to paste in those lines of code. And then maybe just after it displays, it'll call speak here. So remember, you have to use this dot whatever just to refer to anything in data and refer to anything in your methods. Okay. So that means it should do this. Now we don't want to say hello world. What we want to say is the question. So this dot question, and that should do the minimum. Let's try it out.
No contract and pay-as-you-go plans are selling points of the cell phone company started by Sir Richard Branson.
And so that is how
This
you
Japanese company made the Game Boy and the
exercise
GameCube.
8.